At around 1:30 p.m., while the UFIC service was in full swing and parents were deeply distracted by the powerful sermon, the trio spotted the vulnerable 4-year-old girl. Swiftly, quietly, and without raising a single alarm or drawing a sideways glance, they took the girl from the congregation, ushered her out into the blinding afternoon sun, and vanished into a waiting getaway car. Many people think of kidnappings as crimes that only happen in dark alleys, unlit parking lots, or isolated streets. But these individuals took a completely different, terrifying approach. They chose a crowded, bustling church service, a place where everyone's guard is completely down, because they believe they are standing in a holy heaven. It takes a severe level of calculation to look at a room full of worshiping families and see nothing but an opportunity to snatch a child for cold, hard cash. When the church service finally came to an end, the quiet sanctuary instantly dissolved into pure panic. The little girl's parents frantically searched the massive museum hall, the crowded corridors, and the dusty parking lot, but their daughter was nowhere to be found. Desperate, weeping, and utterly terrified, the prominent businessman and his wife rushed to the local police station to report the baffling disappearance. The kidnappers, meanwhile, had already ferried the young child far outside the borders of Kwekwe, driving her down rural roads to a pre-arranged isolated hideout in Gokwe to keep her completely hidden from the long arm of the law. The very next day, the family's phone rang. The voice on the other end was anonymous, calculating, and chillingly calm. The kidnappers didn't waste time. They demanded a massive ransom of 40,000 US dollars in cash to ensure the safe alive return of the little girl. For 2 agonizing days, the family lived in a parent's worst nightmare, negotiating back and forth with the shadows until the girl's frantic mother finally called the captors to tell them she had successfully scraped together the cash. The exchange instructions given by the kidnappers were cinematic, precise, and strictly specific. The mother was ordered to get into her car and drive down the isolated Kwekwe Road. Exactly at 20-kilometer mark, she was told to pull over. There, she had to drop the heavy bag of cash inside a designated stormwater drain on the side of the road. She was explicitly warned that if she brought the police or if anyone else was seen in the car, her daughter would pay the ultimate price. Wanting nothing more than to hold her baby girl again, the brave mother followed the criminal orders precisely, dropping the fortune into the dark storm drain at around 1 p.m. With the 40,000 US dollar ransom cash successfully secured from the storm drain, the kidnappers kept their word, but they did it in a highly public, bizarrely casual way. At around 9 p.m. that very night, they called the mother back with final instructions. Head over to a popular, brightly lit fast food outlet in Kwekwe. When the terrified, exhausted mother rushed through the doors of the Chicken Inn restaurant, her jaw dropped. There, sitting completely safely at a booth table, was her 4-year-old daughter. The kidnappers had actually brought the little girl a box of fast food chicken, leaving her to eat quietly right before they slipped out the back door and melted into the night. Now flushed with thousands of crisp American dollars, the trio genuinely believed they had executed the perfect crime. They immediately fled the city, heading straight to Guero. Flush with sudden wealth, they used a large chunk of the blood money to buy a Nissan Caravan vehicle. They packed into their newly purchased van, and drove down to a fresh secondary hideout in the major city of Bulawayo, ready to celebrate their massive fortune and plan their new lives. Imagine the bizarre, twisted psychology of these criminals. Guys, they kidnapped a helpless 4-year-old child from a church, extort her prominent family for a massive fortune. They thought they were criminal masterminds who had just secured their financial future, completely blind to the fact that the authorities were already mapping out their doom. What the kidnappers didn't realize was that the Zimbabwe Republic Police and local state intelligence teams were working around the clock, deploying high-tech tracking methods, even though the criminals had used an anonymous mobile number registered to a completely unrelated person, all the way in Marondera, to throw off the scent. Their digital footprints instantly gave them away. Expert detectives began mapping the cell tower data from the ransom calls, realizing with absolute certainty that the signals were originating within a tight 10-kilometer radius of the Mbizo booster in Kwekwe. The digital dragnet tightened fast. Further call history and metadata analysis linked the suspect phone to a subscriber network based in Gweru Mukoba suburb. Within hours, a live active phone number traced the kidnappers directly to a specific residential property in the suburb of Shabalala, Bulawayo. On September 16, exactly 8 days after the initial church abduction, heavily armed police detectives waylaid the Bulawayo house. They launched a flawless raid on the building, arresting Rumbidzai Chimimba on the spot, before tracking down and arresting Andrew Musarorwa and the 17-year-old boy shortly. The newly purchased Nissan Caravan was seized, the remaining cash was recovered, and the perfect crime was officially over. When the trio was finally dragged before the regional magistrate court, the legal outcomes split based on their pleas, but the evidence against them was an absolute unshakable mountain. The 23-year-old mastermind, Andrew Musarorwa, realized the state had him completely cornered. He pleaded guilty straight away to the severe kidnapping charges. The court showed him no mercy, and he was slapped with a harsh, crushing 10-year prison sentence, trading his luxury aspirations for a bleak cell. The 17-year-old accomplice, who initially denied the charges alongside Chimimba, eventually faced his final judgment. After being found guilty of the joint abduction, his young age saved him from adult prison. Instead, he was sentenced to serve 3 years of strict rehabilitation at the Blue Hills Juvenile Reform School. Meanwhile, the 20-year-old female accomplice, Rumbidzai Chimimba, initially maintained a fierce plea of not guilty, forcing the state to process her heavily through the intense remand and legal system to answer for her direct active involvement in the hideout operations and holding of the child. Ultimately, the stolen ransom funds were recovered. The vehicle brought with the blood money was forfeited to the state, and the prominent Kwekwe family finally found complete closure. Today, this historic case stands as a permanent chilling warning to anyone who thinks they can outsmart the system. And that is how the dramatic Kwekwe church kidnapping officially came to an end. It proved to the entire nation that greed knows absolute no boundaries, not even the walls of a place of worship. But through swift community action and relentless high-tech police work, a little girl was returned safely to her parents' arms. What do you think about the sentences given to the masterminds?